Hello everyone, I am Rod and I am the game design instructor for the Academy of Entertainment Arts over at Dixie Hollands High School. If you are one of my students, it's Mr. Flowers to you, and welcome to this video tutorial. Alright, so what I want to do right now is go over making our wonderful character Eggy Whites. So this is our scene. Go up to create, and if we think about what Eggy is going to be, he's going to be a sphere. I'm going to drop a sphere in. I'll go ahead and name my sphere right away. That way I don't forget to do it later. This is Eggy Whites. And down here under our inputs, where it says polysphere, I'm going to go ahead and do a radius, and I'm going to try 28. Let me hide I never created a layer for my curtain, so I'm going to grab my curtain real quick. Get on the layers, create layer from selected. I'll go ahead and give that blue because that's my curtain color. Curtain layer. That way I can turn my curtains off and I can see my door. Bye, curtains. Because I want my character to be smaller than my door. I will go ahead and move it up some, move it back, and make sure this is a smaller than my door shape. Looks a little bit too wide, so I'm going to go back to my radius, and I'll say 20 on the radius. And I think that's probably a good size there. But our egg has to be oval shaped, so I'm going to go over to my scale Y, and I'm just going to say 1.25, and that should give us this oval shape. So there's our egg. Now I want him to be on the ground. So the way I'm going to do that is figure if he's got a radius of 20, I'm going to do 10. But I've also stretched him up a little bit, so he's not perfectly 20. So I'm going to bring it up. And that'll probably be just fine. Now if you want to, you can make it so that our egg is more plump at the bottom than at the top. And we can do that by controlling the vertices. So if I go into vertex mode, I'm going to jump into my front view. If you don't see your egg, you can just hit F on the keyboard and it should frame him up so long as he's selected. Now if I grab these bottom vertices, make sure I marquee select all the way across, hit R on the keyboard, and I'm going to grab this, and I'll grab the middle scale, the one in the middle, and just kind of pull these out. Now as I did that, I made this little lip here, so I'm just going to grab these. I'm going to scale those in until it's smooth. Actually, I might bring those out just a little. Bring the waistband out so it's even. Go to the next line up. I'm going to bring those out. And that looks like it'll do. Because our little egg boy is going to be plump on the bottom. That should be a good old egg shape. Okay. If you were happy with it being just a perfect sphere, then that's fine. I'm just going to round out that plump little body. And what we want to do is we want to get rid of these triangles here, because even though we're not going to be really manipulating this, I want to get away from the idea of working with triangles and continue working with quads as best as we can. So remember, we are in Z front. And that's not me being fancy, but that means that our z-axis is in the front, and the x is left and right, y is top. So the way to find my front of my character is go to my z, just kind of orient. I'm going to grab this center line. That should be right on the money there. You can see how it lines up with our arrow. If you need to see the actual axis, you can always turn off your stage floor, and you can see that your center line should line up right with your axis. And the reason I'm taking that center line is I want to know where the middle triangle is, because I need this center line front and back. But I'm going to take the ones to the left and right of my center line and remove them. So I'm going to grab this one to the left of my center, grab that. I'm going to hit Q to get rid of my widget because it's in the way. And I'm going to go just every other line. I'm going to select every other line. And you can see that I have a blue line and a orange line, blue, orange, blue, orange, blue, orange, blue, orange, blue. So it's every other line. And I'll hit delete. So now we have these perfect quads here with our split right down the middle. I'm going to do that on the bottom. Or we're going to be upside down, so it's going to be a little tricky. But same deal. So this is my center line. I'm going to double click it. That way it highlights and I can see it. And same thing, I'm going to do every other. So I'm going to go to, in this case, I'm going to go to the right of my line. So click, hold shift, and every other line. And then I will delete those off. And there we go. We should have a center line that's perfect. And then our quads are right there. Okay. Now what we've got to do is we have to UV this so we can paint it. So I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to select my egg. And then I'm going to jump up here to UVs, and I'm going to bring up my UV editor so you can see the way that it is by default. And the UVs they give us right away are, you could bring these into Photoshop and paint on them. The problem is we don't know where the front of our character is. Do you? I can't tell. You might think, well, it's right here in the middle, but are you sure? If we go into face mode and we just select this middle group right here, I don't know about you, but on my egg, it's not center. It's actually off center. It's taking his, this is his entire left side. Even though it's centered here in the UV shell, it's his left side. Or, so where's his other side? Well, that means his other side is split up between this edge and this group over here. And that's not very helpful for painting because we have to make some guesses, and guessing is not fun. So what we have to do is redistribute these UVs. So I'm going to go back into object mode. I'm going to select my egg, go up to UV, come down to spherical because this was a sphere, and just hit the spherical. And there we go. It gives us this projection. But this isn't useful because of the same reason that we had before. What we need to do is unfold it. So I'm going to go up to the unfold button and just click that. And what we end up with is something easier to paint on, but this still isn't perfect. We have some issues with it, and the reason there are issues has to do with the way the unfold actually happened. So when it unfolded, it had to take the sphere and cut it somewhere. So it took its best guess at cutting and making some slices. Well, the issue is on our caps. The top of our sphere is going to be distorted and stretched, and there's going to be this really nasty seam in the texture right here. Same thing down at the bottom. We have to fix this. So the way to fix these is to actually split our caps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control Z, a couple times until we get back to just before we did our unfold. If you can't control Z anymore, we will just go back into object mode, select our egg, UVs, and do a spherical again, and it will bring us right back here. It'll always reset if you mess it up and you have to come back, you can always just reset by going back and hitting the option again. So I'm going to go into edge mode, and I'm going to select these top edges, and I'm going to come down a little bit, and I'm going to hold shift, select those edges, polygons, and come down to cut UV edges. I'm going to right click, go into UVs, double click to select the entire shell, and then I'm going to hit the unfold button again, and we get something a little bit closer to what we're looking for. But we still have a few issues, really where this thing cut. And you can see over here on the corner, if I go into face mode and select this group, there are some random slices that didn't get placed, so we have to fix those. I'm going to go into edge mode, and to figure out where these slices go, we can actually look at our sphere and see where we're missing pieces of our UV. So if I look, I have this little angle, 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 and then nothing. Same thing down here, angles, and then nothing. If I select this edge, that edge connects to one of these pointy things over here. So all I gotta do is select the edge, select the next one, kind of go up the little chain here, polygons, move and sew edges, and it's going to drop those back onto here. It's still not perfect, we're going to have to unfold again, but before we do that, I want to sew the bottom edges. I'm going to come down, I'm going to grab this edge, this one, this one, this one, and I won't sew that one. We'll just see how it goes. Polygons, move and sew. Okay. And now I will go back into UVs, double click my shell, unfold again. And we're getting closer to something that we can paint on. The issue that we have here are these spikes. Okay, the reason we have these spikes up here is, again, when this tries to sew this thing together, it separates these lines. It has to split it somewhere, so it separates these lines out. And it gives us these little spiky things, which are these top pieces. So these spikes up here are these top pieces here. And it's trying to split these lines up so that it will unfold evenly, which is nice, but the downside is when we go to paint this, if the texture is not a flat color, which means it's only one color. So if you have something that's multiple colors mixed together, or it's got speckles in it, or something that isn't one solid color all the way through, you're going to see the difference between these lines. You'll see basically these lines will look like they're painted on here because the color will be different all the way around. So what we want to do is make sure that these are connected so that when we paint on them, they're getting the same color information all the way across, and there won't be a seam. The way to do that is the same thing. We'll go to edge mode. I'm going to grab this little edge here, and it creates this little highlighted V, which is nice. Hold shift and just click these little V's. Now we'll go up to polygons, and now we'll go to move and sew, and that'll sew those together. Bottom, let's grab these. Oh, I see a bad one. Let me sew this together real quick. If you don't have this split here, then don't worry about it, but I have a split. So I'm going to sew that split together first. Now I will continue sewing these. The reason I sewed that split together is we don't want to have a mysterious seam inside of our texture once we create this. Just get these valleys, polygons, move and sew, and it'll snap those together. What we have to do from here is these are stretched. So if we paint on these, the texture information is not going to be distributed as evenly as, say, everything inside the center. So we want to make sure that this is going to be unfolded and not be like all twisted. So I'm going to double click. So make sure we go into UV mode, double click on our shell, it'll grab everything, and we can unfold one more time. And we get this lovely peanut looking thing that we can paint on, and you can see very cleanly all of our edges. Okay? And if you don't like this thing being down at the bottom, you can just move it up in the center, which is what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to be picky. Put that right there. And now that I have this, I'm going to take it into Photoshop. So polygons. Come down to UV snapshot. And we get our output window. I'm going to go to where it says out UVs. I'm going to say Eggy White underscore UV. I'm going to bake this out as 2048, 2048, so I can get a lot of detail on there, and I'm going to make it a PNG. And then I will hit OK. So don't forget to save your work right here, that way you don't lose your information. Yes, I know, I'm in the student version. And then I will jump over into Photoshop. So in Photoshop, I'm going to go down to my folders. And this is inside my Maya, so my Documents, Maya, Projects, Default, Images folder. So if you go to Documents and you go to Maya, you'll end up with this page here, Projects, Default, and then Images. And we're looking for our Eggy Whites UV channel. So there it is. Make sure we name this layer. So Eggy Whites UVs. I'll go ahead and lock it. I'll drop in another layer. I'll drag that to the bottom. I'll name this background. And drop that in so I don't have to mess it up. Oh. Don't forget to drop in your background color. I locked it. Unlock. Thank you. I locked it before I put the color on. I just had to unlock. You can click the lock button. And now we can paint on this. I'm going to create a new layer. This will be my color layer. And you can divide this into two different colors. So I think I'll do this as, I'll say shell white. Come up here to my paintbrush. And I already have white in my panel here, so I'm going to come down to this little arrow and just switch it. And what I can do, I want this to kind of fill my area as best as it can. So I can use the fill bucket and just kind of fill this in, or I can use it based on my UV layout. So I'm going to select my UVs, go up to the little magic wand tool. If you don't see the magic wand tool here, look at the lasso. Under the lasso there will be a little tool. Just hold and click. Grab your magic wand. And I will select the area, and it makes a little wrap around my UVs, which is nice. I'm going to go up to Select, Inverse. So now just the UVs are selected. Come down here to my shell white, and I will drop the color in. So make sure we're on our shell white and just drop the color in. So this will fill our color. It's okay if you're outside the line a little bit. If we wrap this, if we put this on Eggy right now, we might have a black outline. So we might have to come out of the outline just a little bit. But right now we have, if I turn my UVs off, we have this little egg-shaped or peanut-shaped outline for the white. And if you want to put his eyes on, you can create a new layer for the eyes, and he needs a little tuxedo, so we're going to do those as well. So same thing for the tux. I'm going to figure out where my tux is going to go. To do that, I'm going to put my UVs back on, and I'm going to go down back to Maya. And if I position myself in front of my egg, go into edge mode. Let's see if I click on an edge, if I double click, it'll highlight the edge and it'll show you where that edge is going to be on your model. So this could be your pants, but I think I'm going to bring the pants up just a little higher, kind of like Steve Urkel. So that might be good because he's going to have a big smile and some big giant eyes, and that'll probably be fine for the pants. So that is, if we look at our UV shell, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines up. It doesn't have to be precise, but just to kind of give you an idea, so now you can kind of see it's about here. It's about 8 lines up. All right. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to make this, we'll do mouth. And if you have a drawing tablet, this will be quicker for you. I don't have my drawing tablet plugged in. So I'm going to select my brush, get my brush size. You can right click to change your brush size if you're not sure. I think 10 will be fine. So if my pants are going to go here, I'll try to do the mouth. Right here. I'm just going to rough it in real quick. And very quickly, I'm just going to save this out. Make sure I have my Eggy Whites PSD. And we'll do the Targa. We could load a PSD file right onto him. And actually, I'm not going to do a Targa. I'm just going to load the PSD file so I don't have to keep changing things. So I'll jump into here. I'm going to object mode, select my egg. The egg might have some reflectiveness to it. You can pick one of your colors here. I'm just going to drop in a Lambert. And go into my material attributes. So right click on my little egg, material attributes if they didn't pop up. Under color, we will select our color file, go to our game design folder. And alright, so I'm going to grab my Eggy Whites, make sure I grab the little UVs thing that I just painted out. So there is where our mouth is going to be. And you can see it's not exactly center, which bugs me, so I'll have to move it center. You can see where the pants line is going to be, and our eyes can kind of go on here. And as you're doing this in industry, you'll probably jump back between what you're painting and how it looks on your model back and forth several times before you're happy with it. And you can see here, the mouth is not center. So I will go and grab my little move tool, and I will just center the mouth best that I can. If you're OCD and you must make it perfect, you're welcome to go and make this perfect. I'm going to go ahead and do a rough for my eyes. And for the eyes, I'm actually going to go and grab a shape. Ellipse tool. And I have a few options up here under my shapes. So I have ellipse tool, I have a fill for pixels, I have a fill for path, and a fill for shape layer. I really hate working with shapes. I've never enjoyed that. So I'm going to choose fill with pixels so that I can just paint the pixels. So what I want to do is I actually want the outline. So, you know what, instead of doing my shapes, to do a simple outline, I'm just going to use my selection tool. So selection tool, ellipse, and I will just draw out an ellipse for where I want my eyes to be. So there's one eye. I'm going to make a big googly eye. And I will go up to, where we go? Edit, stroke. And this will let us create an outline so many pixels thick. So my color is going to be black, it's going to be centered, and I'll do 10 pixels thick because that's the thickness of my brush. There we go. There's an outline. This is kind of dark, but that's fine. It just gives us a shape that we can draw in and put our eyes there. I'm going to make one eye, and then I'm going to make a bunch of other pieces that kind of go in that eye. So now I'm going to grab my brush, and I have to make a pupil. So I'm going to break this up to make a pupil size. And I'm going to give him sort of cartoonish pupils. So the way I'm going to do that, and don't forget that you can work in layers here. So like if I'm making an eye, I might actually make a group for the eye and then make several layers inside of there. Same thing for the mouth or whichever. So inside my eye, I will create a new layer, or sorry, a new group. I'll call this eye. I'll drag my eyepiece in there. This is the eye outline. I will just duplicate my outline layer, rename that to pupil. Get my move tool, which is this guy. Move this down, and I'll move it about there, which will be cool beans for me. And then I'll grab my paintbrush. I'm just going to paint a line on the inside here. That way I can use my fill bucket. And whenever you fill with the bucket, you might notice you get like this little edge. And that really has to do with your tolerance. You can change your tolerance down to like 1 pixel and then it would probably be fine. But I'm just going to fill twice and it should just override that old tolerance. Grab my erase tool. I'll just erase this line because I no longer need that line. And there we go. We have some eyes. Or we have an eye. Now since our guy is white, there is, if I remove the shell white, there's nothing here. So I'm going to fill the eye with some eye white, because my eggshell is going to be a little bit different than just white. I'm going to paint it eggshell. So we're going to do some more fancy stuff to the eggshell color. But for the pupil, I'm going to put a highlight on here. So I'm going to hit one more layer. I'll just call this highlight. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to select white. And this is where I wish I had my drawing tablet, but it's okay. I can stroke this in. So if we pretend that light is coming in from some angle, we can do like a little arc. Nope, make sure I have white selected. I am on highlight. Oh, I have my erase selected. Silly me. I just make like a little highlight, kind of like that. And you can kind of come in here and fine tune it. Grab the erase tool. You can make this arc. If I come out, we have an eye. Now, if I put this on Eggy, it's probably going to be a little bit too high on the forehead and kind of back into the curve. So, before I do anything too fancy, let me make the eye white, and then I will do the other piece. So I'm going to come down to my outline, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my magic wand tool, select the inside of the outline, create a new layer. I'm going to call this new layer Egg White. Or sorry, eye white. I'll call it eye white. E-Y-E white. And that will be underneath my outline layer. Grab my white and fill it. So now if I turn off my shell white, I will still have my eye there, which is handy. And then you can kind of go in and you can put like little veins in here if you wanted your eye to have veins. You can create a vein layer. But I will go ahead and close the group of my eye, and all this stuff inside is now tucked away. Control D on the keyboard will deselect the selection box that we had. And to duplicate the eye, I will just hold Alt, make sure I have my eye layer selected, my eye group, and then drag this off, and now I have 2 eyes. Sweet. I'm going to do a quick save. I will jump back into Maya. Right-click on my egg, go into Material Attributes, and then I will click on the material, and you'll see the eyes pop on. So there are the eyes for Eggy, which is cool. And actually, they're not stretching as bad as I thought they would. And they are centered, which is always better than not being centered. You can move these down inside of Photoshop to make them fit better if you want. Let me take a look at him from a distance. I think I'll move him down. So I'll grab my 2 eyes, and I'm going to go ahead and rename the first one. This will be, you can do it to his left or your left, but for sake of simplicity, I'll do it based on my left, which is left of the screen. So left eye, that'll be that eye, and right eye. That'll be that eye. I'll select both my left and right eyes, grab my movement tool, and I'm just going to use the down arrow on the keyboard to kind of push these down. Okay. Same thing for the mouth. I'm going to create a group for the mouth. This will be my mouth group. And then I will move my layer into the mouth group, and you'll see how it tucks in nicely if I hide the group that it'll hide. Alright, so I have my mouth. Zoom in here, hold Control, push the plus or minus key to zoom in and out. And here is my mouth shape. If you don't like this being uneven, then we can do some fancy work using the little pen tool. And I'm going to show you how the pen tool works. I'm not a fan of using the pen tool just because I work in Photoshop. I don't work with vectors very often. I will delete my mouth piece. And over here, between just above the little T, there's this little thing here. It might look different for you, but this is where your pen tool is. Mine has the convert tool currently there. I'm just going to hold and grab the pen tool. And what the pen tool will let us do is create a vector, which is a spline path that will draw some pixels for us. With my pen tool selected, I'm going to come up here. We have some options. The first one draws a shape, this one draws a path, and this one fills pixels. I'm just going to click on, oh, you're not going to let me. Well, fine, I'll just draw the shape. I prefer to just use fill pixels, but sometimes if it doesn't let me, I'm just like, heck with it. I will do a dot, and then I will come over to where the center of my mouth will be, which is about there. And I will click on that to make that line, and I will go up to this one. And this is why our UV layout is really handy, because we can just visually see where all of our intersect points are going to be. Click. And then I will come down to, I think here is fine. That might be in my belt area, but we can always move it. And then I will come back up. Now, you want to complete a loop when you make this pen tool. So my last connection is going to be directly on my first one, and that will create a loop. And what we can do, and I will actually shut off my egg white so you can see that it is a filled area. But this is not the shape of the mouth that we want. So I'll come back down to my pen tool, I'll click and hold and grab my convert tool. And this will allow us to convert a point by pulling on its shape. So I'm going to go up to this middle one, and make sure my convert tool is indeed selected. And if I click on the point, if I hover my mouse, you'll see that it turns into a little V. And then if I click that point and then I pull it, I get this little Bezier handle, which allows me to change the shape and curve of my mouth. So if you wanted a goofy mouth, you can come this way. I want a straight curve. I'm just going to hold Shift. It'll lock my line straight. And now I can have this nice even curve all the way through. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom one. Get my little mouse pointer over it. It'll make this little upside down V shape. I will click, hold Shift, and then drag. Now if yours comes inside out like mine did, you can let go of Shift and just kind of turn this around and then hold Shift again and it will snap back down. So there's a big wide smile like that. And if I turn my egg white layer off, you can see the mouth is there, which is nice. And now I will grab my movement tool and just kind of click off. So here's my mouth, but I need to have something in here. So if you wanted this to be like filled pink and then have like a tongue, you can do that. And I'm going to actually end up changing the color of my shape. So right here on the shape, you can see you have a little color window. If you click on that, it brings up the color. And the inside of the mouth is going to be a pink color, so I'm going to grab pink. Hit OK. And that fills it, which is really handy. I'm going to create a new layer. This one is going to be for my tongue. And I'm going to do the tongue similar to the way I did the eye. I'm going to grab my selection tool, go down to ellipse. On my layer that I just made, I'm going to call this tongue. And I will just draw an ellipse to about where I want the tongue to be. And then I'm going to go up to Edit, Stroke, change my color to black because I want a black outline. 10 pixels is fine. I will hit OK. It will make this little outline for me. I can go up to Select, Deselect to get rid of the selection. With my Move tool, I can center this up where I want it to be. If you want the tongue sticking out, that's cool. I'm just going to have a tongue here. I'm going to have kind of like a goofy face going on. So what I'm going to do to get the tongue, the rest of the tongue shape, is I'm actually going to duplicate my tongue. And I'm going to bring this circle up to about there. And now I have this overlap. I'm going to have this little tongue piece. So I'm going to select both of my tongues, and I'm going to merge them. So to select two layers, just hold Shift and click on them. I'm going to merge those two layers together. Grab my Erase tool, and I will just very gently erase the piece of the outline that I don't need. And again, you could have this as a tongue sticking out, but I am not doing a sticking out tongue. I'm going to do just a tongue in the mouth because he's got this big wide smile. I'm just very gently going over this edge here. And you can make this as perfect or as character-like as you want. I'm just going to kind of give a curve to it. And a tongue has a line down the center, so I'll do this as tongue outline. Actually, I won't do the tongue outline. I'll just draw one on to save time because the video is getting kind of long. We're already at 40 minutes. So I will do a little curved line in the middle of the tongue. Kind of looks like an eyeball, given the shape. Erase tool. Oh, I ended up cutting part of my lip right there, or the edge of the tongue, which is why working in layers is usually the better option. What am I saying? It's always the better option. So we have a curve to our tongue. And tongues are usually a little bit more on the brighter pink reddish side. So I'm going to grab my fill tool. Or, sorry, my magic wand tool. I will select this. And this time I will grab a new layer and I'll drag it below the tongue. I'll just say tongue color. And I will fill this in with a color good for my tongue. So I'll get more of a deeper red. Grab my bucket tool and I'll just fill that in. And then I will deselect. And that'll work. If you have any like outlines, like any white outlines like this here that bug you, you can always go in and fix that with your brushes. So like on my tongue fill, I can kind of come in and fill in right here. And since I'm on a separate layer, I'm not going to erase my stuff. So it really does look like a pink eyeball. But it only looks like a pink eyeball because there is no outline on our mouth. So I will go ahead and select the mouth and my magic wand tool, and I will select. Oh, you're not going to let me. Well, fine. It's not going to let me use the selection because on the mouth it's actually on a it's a shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this shape to an image. So hopefully if you're done with the color and shape of your mouth, this is fine. I'm done with it, so I'm not worried about flattening this thing. I'm going to go to rasterize layer, and that will make it a layer of pixels. Now I can select it. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this mouth outline. And as I've done before, I'll go to edit, go down to stroke, change this to black for my outline. 10 pixels is fine. And there we go. Now we have a very happy looking creepy little egg guy with a mouth. You can go in and fill teeth in here if you want to. I'm not going to because our video is getting very long. And then for his clothing, what we can do is kind of the same deal. I'm going to grab the tool here, grab ellipse. I will close the mouth off, and I will make a new group. I'm going to call this, I'm going to drag this down. I'm going to call the new group, this will be my tux. And inside there I'll drag a layer. And this will be, I'll say tux outline. Grab my ellipse tool, and I will make an ellipse. And what's really cool is since we have our UV outline already there, I can kind of line my little tool up with that outline. And now I'm going to do same thing. Edit. I'll do a stroke. Whoops. Black 10 pixels. So there's that. Now it does go off of the image, but this is where we're going to kind of cheat a little bit. This little outline will wrap around. Anything outside of our UVs will be cut off. So any color you kind of bleed out of here, it's not like drawing in a crayon book where you have to be inside the lines. Being outside the lines in this empty space means the UVs won't be red there, which is handy for us. But I will draw a new little piece here so that I can do my tuxedo. And I will use the pen tool to do the tux. So first things first, I'm going to get a color to fill for my tuxedo. And that's going to come up here. And I will do like a navy blue tuxedo. That's really dark, deep, like purpley blue. And I don't want to just do a fill here, because if I fill, remember our outline is kind of coming out. So I'm just going to fill this, get a big brush, and I'll just draw an outline. Oh, my bad. I'm drawing on my layer. I need to make a color layer. Sorry, Control Z. New layer. And this will be our tux color. I'm going to put that under our outline, and now I'll draw my color in there. And I'm going to very gently fill this around the edges. Like I said, you can go outside the edge a little bit. And the only reason I'm not doing a full stroke inside is I'm going to do a bucket fill after I get the overall shape done. I kind of came out of the line there. And grab my little erase tool. Working in layers, layers and layers. Kind of back up. Remember, I'm using the control button and then plus or minus. You could also use a little magnifying glass tool, which is right there. Bucket tool, I'll fill that in. And you can see there's a little line on our tolerance. Again, you can adjust your tolerance to stop that. I'm just going to hit the bucket twice and it'll get rid of that. So there's my color for my tuxedo. And now I'm going to draw on the tie. So I'll create a new layer. Bring this above the tux. I'll call this tie outline. And that's kind of actually a cheat because I'm going to be using the pen tool. So that probably will not even matter, but just in case. So with the pen tool selected, I'm going to draw on where I want my tie. And this is going to be pretty straight. I'm going to have sharp angles, so I'm going to draw, make sure that I have this set. If it won't let you get pixels, I'll just have it go to shape, which is fine. I'm going to do one point here. I'm going to come down to about there. Go in. That's fine. Out. Down. And I was kind of getting like the angular shape of the tie. And I'm not going to be OCD about it being perfect. That's fine that it's not. Because when have you ever had a tie that was perfectly form-fitting? So there we go, we have our tie shape. And if you want this to curve, we just go back to our pen tool, grab the conversion tool, and I'm going to grab this little edge, and I'm going to, whoops, wait for the little handle to pull up. There we go. And what's kind of cool about these little Bezier handles is If you grab the one and you pull it, it'll stretch, right? But if I want to change the curve of one, I can grab one of them and just kind of angle my curve, which is nice. And again, if it comes in upside down, just kind of flip it, curve it. And then, like, this part of the tie is usually straight, but this piece of the tie is usually kind of curved. So I'm going to grab this, and you can pick which one you want to use to curve. I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to grab the little end of the handle there and just kind of curve it a bit. That one came in inside out. I'll just flip it. And there we go. I have that piece for my tie. Another thing is, like, if these guys are not lined up straight and you want them to be, you can also come in, you have your tool here, but right under the T, you have a selection of a direct selection tool and a path tool. The path tool will select the entire outline. The direct selection tool will let you grab one piece and move it to make it straight, which is handy. Like if it drives you crazy and you had to have it straight, you could. Or you can grab them and move them wherever you like. Okay, so there's that, but I don't want this to be filled blue. My tie should be, I'm going to do black for my tie. So let's fill this. So that, my new tie outline has this shape on it, and there we go. If you want to do any other details on here, like maybe you wanted there to be the little pieces of the tuxedo where you see like the little flaps that go there and have sort of like a white inside, you guys are welcome to do that. I'm not going to do that for him. I just want to touch up the egg color real quick. I'm going to close my little tux, grab my egg white. I'm going to press D on the keyboard to get black and white back. And I want to do something for this egg color, because egg white is not quite white. So what I'm going to do is go up to Filter, I'll go down to Noise, and I will add some speckling. And this will give our shell that speckly color. If I kind of zoom in, you can see right here some speckling on the shell. Now, I didn't do anything really fancy with the speckles. My default speckle, so add noise, mine was 5% uniform, and I did have it set to monochromatic. That way they're black and white. But there's some patchy for the egg. If you want more detail on the egg, you're welcome to. But I want to add just a hint of yellow to this to get this little bit of a yellowing color. And I go to my shell white. I mean, I could go to Google and I could type in eggshell RGB, and it would give me an RGB color code that I could put in to get the perfect eggshell white. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a little bit creative. Alt on the keyboard, drag this up. So I have a new shell white. I'm going to just type in yellowing. I'm going to say shell yellowing. And drag these up to get a yellowy color. That's probably too high on the yellow scale, but I'm going to drag this bottom one up so it's just subtle. And grab my magic wand tool, select outside of my color. The reason I'm selecting outside is because we put speckles on here, and if we tried to select the color itself, it might not work as well. So I'm going to grab that, select inverse. So now I have my color selected. Drop that in. Control D to deselect it. I'll grab my move tool. So now we have this yellowy color, but that's too yellow. So I want to blend it. I have a lot of blending options here, or I have opacity. I'm going to try some blending options so you can see how they work. What I'm going to do is just select this, and I'll just kind of go down on the list. If you want to see it live action update, just click on it till it turns blue, and then just hit the down arrow, and you'll see what each one of these modes do. And you can see the mode, so we're on multiply, color burn, linear burn, darker color, which I kind of like the darker color, but it's a little patchy, lighten, screen, color dodge, lighter color, overlay, soft light. Pin light is very subtle. Hard mix. No, that's not quite what we're going for. Exclusion, subtraction, and divide. And then hue. I think I like lighter color. And I will do my opacity. I can drop this down. I'll say 85%. And there we have the basic work of our egg. I'm going to go ahead and save this. File, save. And since we're loading the PSD file for our egg, I will uncheck the UVs. So this is what he'll look like. And I'll save that again, because we don't want the UV lines to appear on the actual egg character. Go down to Maya, select our egg, go into, if your material information didn't pop up over here and you don't want to dig for it, just right click on the egg, material attributes, click on it, and there we have it. And there is Eggy Whites, very happy looking egg. Alright guys, and we are going to jump out of here. I will pick this up on making the props in the next video. Have a good one.